What's up, you big, beautiful Madridistas? Not a great night. We got a lot to break down. But first, shout out to our presenting sponsors, Moji Mates. Tonight we're rocking Eduardo Camavinga 8 times, different iterations of Eduardo Camavinga. If you want to go get your favorite Real Madrid player on a shirt, go to moji-mates.com. That's moji-mates.com. You'll get things like this Camavinga hoodie, any player you want, ton more, t-shirts, shorts, whatever you need. Moji-mates.com. Also, a shout out to TAFC Academy. You can visit their website at tacsports.ca. March break coming up. If you're in Toronto, you want to sign your kids up for top-notch soccer clinics, swimming clinics, basketball clinics, go to tacsports.ca. Incredible staff, incredible facilities. They treat everyone just with respect, and also just the state-of-the-art facilities and coaching. So go to tacsports.ca. We're going to do it. Post-game show, Espanyol 1, Real Madrid 0. There's so many things to talk about. It's making my head spin. Matt Wiltse is joining me in a second. Let's usher in Ray Hudson and Derek Ray and get this podcast started.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
All right, guys, Kiyan, Sobhani here. Welcome to the Managing Madrid Podcast. We are recording this after Real Madrid lose to Espanyol 1-0. They are now just 1 point ahead of Atletico. Surprise, surprise. Madrid derby coming up in, obviously, Manchester City. So, this is a very pivotal month, very pivotal stretch. Rüdiger got injured. We got a lot to discuss. Matt Wiltse is going to be joining me in a second here. While he hops on, I thought I would log in early. I just want to let you guys know ahead of time that I apologize in advance if my performance is not going to be with the utmost energy, and I'm not that upbeat. I've been suffering from a massive fever all weekend. I'm dragging myself to the podcast. My hope was we'll get a great game, like a Jude bicycle kick, an Mbappe brace, Vinny a couple assists, and it would boost my mental health. Unfortunately, this game made my fever worse, so I'm just logging on here and trying my best. So apologies in advance. We got Matt here. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kiyan.
How are you?
I'm all right. I think this is I don't know where to start. Where do you want to start?
Well, I would like to, I have about here are the topics on my mind, okay? At the top of my list would be referee. The second thing would be Rudiger injury, and 3 would be Ancelotti's decisions. 4 would be like what went wrong. I think that's a good starting point. We'll start with those 4 things. Actually, why don't we start? Maybe we'll shift the referee to like third, and we'll start with what do you think went wrong in this game? What were the mistakes that we made? Whether it was the lineup, whether it was the tactics, or something else.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised at the lineup when it came out. I thought this is the third. I kind of in my head, I was like, all right, this is the third away game in a row. That in itself is a little bit taxing, just the traveling and everything like that, staying in hotels, kind of away from home. We just had a midweek Champions League game, usually a little bit more intense. You're getting Vinny back. Like maybe he'll introduce some more rotate. He talked about it in the pre-match presser, how now's the time of the season where you need more rotations. And so I was really surprised that the lineup was more or less the same. And it was, I'm beginning to think this is still Ancelotti's quote unquote Gala 11. And the Gala 11 still includes Tchouameni at center back and Lucas Vazquez at right back, which really, really concerns me. So I think just from the get-go, I had like bad feelings. I felt like this was not all those kind of ingredients put together meant that I already went into this game like with a somewhat nervous skepticism, and sure enough, like when you saw the actual product on the field, it was terrible.
I think everything was pretty bad today. I don't like the lineup because you mentioned it, like, and you want to start there. I take actually less issue with like Vazquez starting in a game like this, because I was talking about this with Angelo. Like, these are the games I would start Vazquez and Tchouameni in some way, because they're one of the easier games on the schedule, even though obviously not. Espanyol, the weird thing about them this season, they're very close to relegation, but they picked up 21 of 23 available points at home, which is ridiculous. They're basically just been flawless at home, and then they just lose every away game. So it was going to be a difficult game in that sense. But if I'd be like theoretically okay with Vazquez and Tchouameni starting these games, Tchouameni starting at center back, Vazquez starting at right back, if it meant that they're not going to play against Manchester City. It's just like part of the rotation, right? But we know that's not the case, because as you said, this is Ancelotti's once de gala. With regards to, I think we can shift to the Rüdiger injury, because this happens early enough in the game. Rüdiger's played almost 1,800 minutes in the league, and then you have to like factor in all the other stuff he's played, whether it's Intercontinental Club, the Champions League, all that stuff. So he's been playing it was kind of a miracle he lasted this long, to be honest. We spent so much time talking about Raul Asencio should start over Tchouameni, which is correct. I agree with that. But the other thing he could have done is just start over Rudiger and give Rudiger some rest during this whole thing, And I guess I don't understand why it has to be balls to the walls every single game. The people you trust, and there just is there's no rest. Like, unless Carlo really trusts you, like you're not. I think, Matt, because there was so much criticism of the board, and again, rightfully so, about not strengthening the back line. That would be less of an issue if Ancelotti also trusted the youth and trusted the other players outside of his circle of trust. And when you have the board not strengthening the squad, and you have Ancelotti here on the other side being given this problem and deciding that I'm not going to trust anyone outside of the circle, it's just a double problem. It's like it's just a bad place to be.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, because the board may push back and be like, hey, use the kids, use the youth system. We have one of the best youth systems in the world. But Ancelotti doesn't play them. Like, even a kid who has, I mean, yes, it's still a small sample size, but has proven himself more than reliable at this level. He doesn't seem to have Ancelotti's full trust for whatever reason. And I don't know. I was thinking to myself during the game, I'm like, is Ancelotti seeing something in the data with Tchouameni that he like really likes? Like, maybe it's some line breaking ability or progressive passing that he brings from the back. Like, is there something I'm just missing? Because I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, and it just like I felt like there were a couple moments in this match where you saw Tchouameni kind of like again struggle with, like, there were just little moments where it's a 50-50 and he's maybe trying to pass it back to Courtois and he doesn't quite get the full toe on the ball, and like he's moving kind of slow. He's sometimes when Lucas presses out, he's in a right back position, and he always looks really slow in that role. And I just feel like I feel like we all see it and Ancelotti doesn't. And I don't know if I'm questioning myself because I'm like, what does he see that I don't see?
I think it's instinct. Since it's still fresh in my mind, because I've been mentioning about his book a lot lately, even though it's like 8 years old now, but I read it recently. So I pulled things out of it that are fresh in my mind still. And one of the things he says is that during a period when he was at Milan, he had Inzaghi and Gilardino, and Inzaghi was in like a complete rut. He was playing terrible, and every time Gilardino would come in, he would score off the bench. And his coaching staff would tell him, maybe we shouldn't start Inzaghi because Gilardino is way better and Inzaghi is playing terrible. And Ancelotti's like, no, we have to start Inzaghi no matter what. I just have a feeling. Then after like 20 games, Inzaghi scores, and Ancelotti's like, my instinct paid off. And I think, this is kind of applicable to the way he's managing things now. By the way, Raul Asencio, when he came in, I thought looked great. He was like, how many times did Espanyol have like almost a breakaway, and then it's Asencio coming over and just snuffing it out? He's good on the ball.
Yeah, and that was one of the breakdowns in this match too. Is like we played such a high line, and obviously they played such a low block that we were trying to counterpress, keep them kind of in their half. But their transition attacks were pretty effective and pretty devastating. And in the second half, there were probably 3 or 4 counterattacks they had where, like, think about that one where Rodrygo was at right back at one point. Like there were so many that they had that it couldn't, like, yes, it didn't show up on the XG because none of their either they didn't get a shot off or their shots were like way off from weird positions, but like they did have very dangerous counterattacking moments where we looked a shambles in transition.
There was one that it was ridiculous. Like when I was looking, I was like, how do you concede a chance from this? And it was the Espanyol goalkeeper. And he has the ball in his hands and he just throws it behind our high line. And they get a breakaway and Asencio comes over and puts an end to it. I'm like, how can it be this easy to get a breakaway? Like your goalkeeper can just throw it and you get a breakaway? Like, what is this? Then I'm curious to know what you thought about subs or lack thereof, because, I mean, it was like 75 minutes in, I think. And I noticed, I was like, whoa, how was it already minute 75? And did we bring anyone in? And I was like, oh, the only person we brought in was Asencio in the 16th minute for the Rüdiger injury. It was actually 80th minute. Modric, the first sub was 80th minute. Modric for Ceballos. Brahim comes in 87th minute when we're down a goal. Arda Güler, obviously, no chance in hell, unfortunately, of getting off the bench in this one. What is it? Does it have to be like a situation where you're up 3-4 goals to trust these guys? I don't get it. Maybe he's just kind of like thinking that it's working. It's only a matter of time. Maybe that would have happened. Rodrygo hits the post. I mean, Bellingham had a couple good shooting positions and his shooting was terrible. Mbappe had that chance that was a great save. But I don't know. I what do you think about the subs or lack thereof?
Yeah, I mean, I was like you. I was looking at the clock and I was like, when's he gonna change this up? When is he gonna bring somebody on? We need something different to shake things up. And it just, like, from minute 0 to 97, it just felt like there was nothing. Like the attitude from the team was really poor. The tactics were really poor. The game plan overall, the in-game management, like none of it was good. And I think I feel like a broken record at this point, but I think Ancelotti just hasn't been able to man up and make the tough decisions and the big calls. And like, hey, maybe you need to yank off an Mbappe, a Vini, a Rodrygo, a Bellingham, like one of the 4, or even 2 of the 4. And I know that's tough, but sometimes you just have to kind of make the big decisions and the big calls and see that, like, it's not working and you got to freshen the dynamic needs to change. And whether it be like starting lineup decisions, rotations, whether it be in-game subs, like this is not just a one-off. This is not like, I think that's where we wouldn't be as frustrated as fans if this was just like a one-off and, you know what, Ancelotti went with it, rolled with it. Like he could have gotten away with, like, you never know with those 4 players. Any one of them could have popped up in the 97th minute, but it's not a one-off at this point. And this in-game management has been a consistent theme for him all season in terms of questioning his substitutions. And so I think that's where the frustration lies.
77% possession. And I think kind of like you can maybe separate some of the first half problems and the second half problems. Second half, like we had some better attacking sequences and it led to some great chances. The first half, all that possession led to 1 shot on target, 2 shots total. And I think one of the problems I had with it, like I was looking at some of these players on the field and I was like, why are they so quiet? It's almost like they're not playing. Ceballos and Fede Valverde were 2 of them, but the numbers didn't agree with me because Ceballos had like 80 touches. Fede had a bunch of touches. We had a lot of the ball, but it was like the quietest 80 touches in like a half that I've seen, because there was no real incisiveness and there wasn't really any meaningful possession on the ball. And I think part of the problem was that Espanyol were playing very narrow and compact, obviously. And they had like minimum 8 players in and around the box at all times. So like the rare moment we even got through and got even close to their box, it was just not even, we had no space to work with. But there was just an insistence also on central passes down the middle. We would cut in, we would try to find those passes down the middle, and there's nothing, like most of those passes were intercepted. Anytime like Mbappe maybe was the recipient of it, there's nothing he can do in that situation. He's closed down really quick. One side that jumped out at me was that we had one dribble attempt in the entire first half, and that was Vinny. And like there was no one breaking lines from the wings. There was no one like. There's super chats about like kind of Rodrygo on the right too, so I want to save it for that part. But I didn't like the lack of line breaking from the wing. I didn't like our insistence in just going at the central channel, which was, there was no space to work with. There was also the fact that I thought we were very careless on the ball. Like just a lot of like unnecessary forced passes when a simple pass was on. And it like, whether it was from Vinny, Bellingham too, Rüdiger had a couple of these before he got subbed off. It's okay to play a more daring vertical pass, but not like when you're in this position deep that if you don't pull it off, it's costing the team really badly. And every time Espanyol did win the ball, even though it was very rare, they had an opportunity to break. And if they were just a better team offensively, I think they would have punished us more. I just didn't like the way we approached offensively. I didn't like the way we held it together defensively. I think maybe the only player that jumped out to me as having a good performance was probably Asencio.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to take Shay's super chat? Because I want to talk about this.
All right, let's take Shay's super chat. Shay Khatiri says this front three doesn't work. Vinny and Turtle don't have chemistry, and Rodrygo's no good on the right. I wish we try Rodrygo on the left and Vinny on the right.
So the fact of the matter is, like, we're gonna have to find a way to get Vinny back into the team, back into rhythm, back into playing well. But I think there's no denying the fact that we saw really good 1-2 interchange, 1-2 quick give and goes between Rodrygo, Bellingham, and Mbappe over these last 3 games. Like, there's no denying that. It was clear to see. Like, I think the thing with Vinny is his game is so predicated on taking multiple touches, beating multiple men off the dribble, whereas these guys are looking for the quick combination, quick 1-2s, and he's kind of more, I'll do it myself and then I'll find you. And it just, for whatever reason, it's not connecting right now. It's not the chemistry, cohesion. It's just not there at all between when those 4 play together. And yeah, Rodrygo is impacted playing on the right. Like, I think he said before that, hey, any player, like, for this Real Madrid team, if you're playing on the left, you're going to benefit. Like, it's just the way the team's set up, you're going to benefit. And so it's, yeah, and I personally, I don't think in a big game or even just going forward, I don't think we can play all 4. I don't know how I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think I think we have a large enough sample size at this point to know that it doesn't work.
But I have a theoretical question for you. What happens if you take Vinny or Rodrygo out? Like, doesn't matter which one, just choose one, and you replace them with, I don't know, Luka Modric. How much does this game actually change, in your opinion?
I think it might change, to be honest. I think it might change.
But Matt, we roll up every single post-game podcast, and we're discussing like similar issues no matter who's on the field.
Yeah.
Like, we tried the whole thing where we put like an extra midfielder.
But I mean, the last 3 games, have they not been better? I'm not saying don't play Vinny. I'm not saying take Vinny out of the lineup. But what I am saying is, like, I think it's looked much better, at least in the final third. I feel like it's been a smooth, like, some of the combination plays have been really smooth and fun to watch. And I just feel like we don't see that when all 4 of them play.
I think part of it is that our 3 opponents before this were pretty bad.
This is Espanyol though.
I know, but
Where are they in the league? Aren't they like second bottom or something?
Look, I just feel like this is the classic. This is the classic Spanish low block La Liga away game. It's just not like Salzburg can't defend, Las Palmas can't defend. If Espanyol played a high line like those guys or whoever, I can't even remember the third team played against Brest. Like Espanyol again, like they have 21 out of 23 points at home. They basically never lose at home. I'm not saying we shouldn't be beating Espanyol. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I don't know how much this changes. I also think, for what it's worth, like Rodrygo on the right did a lot of good stuff today in the second half, and I think this
he almost scored. He hit the post.
He hit the post. He was trying to break lines. He was trying, like, he can dribble. Whether he's on the left or the right, he can dribble. And
ESPN had our XG at 1.81 versus Espanyol was like 0.36 or something. So
yeah,
like we did have chances and we did create opportunities. Like I think when you zoom out and look at that, like yeah, maybe there are a lot of things just didn't go our way, including the refereeing, but just watching this as a Madrid fan, like it's not enjoyable. It's not fun to watch this. Like it's not like that's I guess that's where I'm coming from is like, yeah, even if we did create enough to score 2 goals, like I still would have come away from this match being like, we're just like, we're dragging through this season and it still doesn't, the team's not there. It's not a team. It doesn't jive well. Like something's off. The balance is off.
My follow-up question to you is, with this exact same lineup, and this was a different coach, would they have performed like this offensively? I feel like the reason I asked that question is I feel like there's a bit of a misdirection. And it's like, because like some people were pointing out like they're not moving. I'm like, when you look at them attack in this game, it's actually very fluid. Like Vinny was going down the middle. Vinny was going down the right. Rodrygo will come centrally. Jude was going on the right wing. They were moving a lot. They were free to roam. It still felt a little directionless and too much reliance on like, okay, you guys are the best players in the world, figure it out. But also like that stuff, it has an effect defensively where if like Jude is like, you know, in the box or on the right wing or Vazquez is here and there, you just have a lot of situations like you do, like those breakaways that Espanyol were getting, like Rodrygo being the right back on that sequence where I think it was Carlos Romero who gets the ball past him, or maybe it was someone else. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But like you have a lot. It also affects your defense too in transition because players are not in position to win the ball back in that situation if you lose it. And I just wonder, like, if you have another coach coming in, is there a different direction with this exact same lineup?
Here's my I don't, a part of me doesn't disagree with you, and then a part of me like counters with this. So and not just Xabi Alonso as the example, because I think a lot of this is more prevalent in the Bundesliga, and like Tuchel used to do this too, is a lot of like Xabi Alonso's teams, they shapeshift within games and like change formations multiple times within games. And you don't see anything like that from Ancelotti. And I think on top of that, even if we went out with the same exact lineup, again, I think the in-game management and some of the changes that could have been made, especially earlier, just to change the dynamic up, would have made a difference. And I think other coaches would have done that. And yeah, I think that's where I'll push back, because I do agree that like I think we have to find the balance between like, oh, everybody blames Ancelotti when like, hey, we are still top of the league. We are through in Champions League. We're in the next round of the Copa del Rey. Like we're fighting for everything still. Yes, we've lost to Barcelona, if you count the preseason, like 3 times with how many 5-0 goals or whatever. Like, because I was thinking about that the other day. We lost bad to Barcelona in the preseason too.
I honestly can't even remember that game. I was there and I don't remember what happened in that game. So, that was like preseason was weird because it was just basically Castilla and no one else.
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's like, so I think the context around everything, like, I think we have to find the balance of, yes, Ancelotti, like right now I'm kind of at like 65-35 or even 70-30, being 70 being Ancelotti, 30 being the players at this point. And despite that, like we have limped our way to still competing in competitions, but we're running out of time to figure it out. I think that's where we're like, every time we feel like we turn a corner, we have a setback like this. And I feel it feels like we're running out of time to kind of get this right. And like, even when, and it just feels like Ancelotti is going to keep doing the same thing, even though we know we need to change something, especially for the big games.
This is what I'm most worried about. I want to talk about the referees. So I want to take a couple super chats about referees. So Mr. Sushi 22 says, literally after anyone from any team complains about refs, they are subject to a dodgy call next game. Doesn't even matter if it's Barca or Madrid. Adar Zalukovic says, Real Madrid officially calling out the ref and VAR. And I think those are the referee super chats. So I feel a little bit better that we talked about all the issues before we talked about the referee. My initial emotional decision was like, fuck this ref. But the real problems were us. Now we move on to the second problem. After we shot ourselves in the foot with lineup substitutions and bad play, we have this referee barrier too. So we had two big decisions. One was Carlos Romero, the guy who scored the winning goal, not getting a red against Mbappe. Then you had also the Vinny disallowed goal in the first half. I think the Vinny disallowed goal was interesting enough, like that. Like you see Mbappe getting his neck, shirt, whatever, that area kind of held in the box. So there's a foul leading up to that. And Mbappe, if Mbappe just dives in that situation instead of pushing him back, that's either a disallowed goal or a penalty. So I think disallowing that goal was harsh because although Mbappe did foul him, if you're calling the reason he fouled him was because he's getting fouled first.
Agreed.
Yeah.
He got fouled first. I think that's the key point there, which makes me think that the goal should have stood.
Yeah. And I don't, there's this, the red card, non-red card is just so obvious that I don't even know what to say other than how the hell was that not a red card?
And that completely changes the dynamic of the game as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Changes the game. That we're looking at a W. There's no question. I mean, maybe we, you never know.
We draw. Yeah.
Maybe it's just like Espanyol just really dig into the low block with 10 men and it's just impossible. But come on, man, like that, you can't be making calls like this. This is why VAR was implemented. This is why we have it. And it's not even a hard call. Like, it's not like, ooh, was his arm in an unnatural position? Let's get out the rule book. Let's interpret it like 100 million different ways. Like, no, that's a red card. It was crazy.
Well, that's where I get like annoyed. Like, so you'll hear like more people outside of Real Madrid circles say like, oh, Florentino, like when Florentino talked about bringing English referees and like they make fun of it. And like, they say like, oh, Florentino shouldn't be making comments like that. And like the fact that Real Madrid fans always bring up the Negreira case and things of that nature and complain about the referees and Real Madrid TV, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is case in point. This is, I mean, Florentino says we're losing competitions because of refereeing. And it's true. And I used to always be a skeptic on like some of the conspiracy stuff and all that. But after the Negreira case, like after Barcelona was paying the vice president of the refereeing association for years, millions of dollars, like that's when I completely shifted my attitude towards it. And it's just like the refereeing in Spain is there. We've dealt with it for so long, but it's so incompetent, and I've lost words now. But yes, of course, all teams have calls that like are baffling, like even the small teams. But some of this stuff, like you said, how do you not go to VAR on that? Like how do you not look at those images and just decide at least the referee, you've got someone in your earpiece telling you have to go look at this play? I just don't understand.
I don't know what the solution is. Because let's say it's not corruption, it's just incompetency. Because I think it's incompetency rather than corruption. Because I think if you watch any La Liga game, it's not even just La Liga, like Premier League too. Like it's just like Florentino recently said that we should bring in referees from England, which is like it's not like their referees are even or any better. But I actually agree with the principle of like outsourcing the referees from another country altogether.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I think every team has shitty calls against them, and I think every team has calls that they benefit from. Either way, it's not okay that we have continued like this for years and years and years without like coming up with a solution. Remember what was like a year ago, like when we logged on for that post game podcast after Jude Bellingham had the game winner disallowed.
Yeah.
And there's been nothing has improved since that day. I mean, I think one solution might be to outsource. So the other thing would be like, how can we hold them accountable? Like, referees make mistakes. That's fine. We're human. Every human makes mistakes. That's why we have VAR. VAR is literally the solution to human error. It's the solution to referees missing something in real time. So that's not being implemented correctly. It's slowing the game down and not being implemented correctly. That's a double problem. And the other thing is, like, can we just have the referee should be like, they should have to come on a microphone and like answer questions after the game. They should, like, the NBA actually will come out, like they release like last 2-minute reports. So they'll outline all the mistakes they made in the game. And they're very open and transparent. So we missed this. This is a mistake we made. This call was the wrong call, etc. Like, there's got to be something like that, I think, implemented as well. Was it the Intercontinental Cup where the referee came on? Remember? It was like, for me, he's goal.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. That was great. They need to be held accountable for this, because look, I think like 95% of the people who are listening to this podcast are Real Madrid fans. But the reality is, even if you're not a Real Madrid fan, you will be in full agreement that the referee in La Liga, that it just has been shambolically bad. It's not just a Real Madrid thing. All right, so we're in agreement that Real Madrid played bad and the referee was bad. So both things were true. And referee mistakes or not, we should have done better to close out this game and actually win. I'm gonna leave it. Oh, you know what? Super chats. We gotta dig through them. So Nishlish Patel says, we played ass. I know, but this is the most dearly and directly a non-called red card has cost us than ever before. Oh, sorry. Clearly, I think is what you meant to say. Non-called red card has cost us more than ever before. That was a shame goal by Espanyol. Yeah, as we mentioned in passing, the goal scorer was the guy who was supposed to get a red card, Carlos Romero. So, Mr. Sushi22 says, just me who gets irritated that the players get credit for wins, managers take credit for losses. Subs not great, but players need to be critiqued more.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I do think we've piled on quite a bit on Ancelotti, and rightly so. He deserves the criticism, but I think the players do deserve criticism tonight. Like, they were not good. They were not put in a position to be good, you could argue, but they were. I don't think Vinny was good, despite his goal. Don't think Mbappe was great. I don't think anyone in the attack was great. Like you said, you said who played well tonight. Asencio was the only one you could think of. I mean, I thought Fede was. I thought he was okay. I thought he was fine.
Do you think Fede should have defended that goal at the end better?
Yeah.
I think I don't know why.
And that's Fede in a right back position, by the way.
Right. I mean, I didn't understand why he had to peel off of Romero at the far post. Like, he didn't need to close.
No, he shouldn't.
There was no other marker there. He should have just stayed put.
Yeah, there was too much space between him and the man. Yeah. So that's a good point. So there. I mean, I can't think of it. I mean, can you think of anyone else that played well? There's only so much a coach can do when his team's not playing well. But he should have changed things earlier. That's the counterpoint. Is like, why
exactly
if they're not playing well, why wait until the 87th minute to bring on Brahim?
Well, here's why, Matt. Because Ancelotti said after the game was difficult. We did things well. We had good control. We had opportunities. A goal disallowed, and we hit the post. We controlled the game. Espanyol played well in transition.
So he felt like we had it under control and that it was going to come. Yeah,
that's the explanation. So With regards to your question, I mean, I don't think anyone played well. I mean, I'm just going through my notes. I don't think Fran Garcia played well. I don't think Bellingham played well. I think Mbappe was largely poor. A couple good movements. Vinny had a couple good dribbling sequences, but for the most part, not great. I think overall our defense was bad. Our offense looked disjointed. A little bit better, improved in the second half, where it was a little bit more purposeful. The link up was a little bit better on the right. No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about Carlo's quotes there. And even if let's say we nick this and we won it 1-0 and we scrape through, I don't think our discourse would be that different on the podcast tonight. Like, I still think we would be saying that, like, why'd he take so long? Like, he waited it out. Yeah, it worked, but we were fortunate and the team did not play well, did not click. I think we'd be saying Rüdiger got injured because of all the overplay. Like, I think we'd be saying the same things.
I know Mr. Sushi has been listening to this podcast for years. So I'm sure Mr. Sushi knows, and that comment is not directed towards us. And it's probably more directed towards the fan base because, I'm just thinking as recently as when, like last year, we were full of praise of Ancelotti when he reinvented the wheel amid injuries. And he had that stretch where he put the Fede Cruz double pivot to combat all these injuries, Camavinga, Tchouameni, etc. I mean, we put a lot of praise for Ancelotti, but we were also very critical during wins as well of Ancelotti. So Managing Madrid podcast generally is we look at the process more than the results. We acknowledge the results. We acknowledge the process. I've always said, like, can you improve on your performance week to week? And I think there's a lot of cases where we just don't, even when we win. We have to increase our margin of error. I think most people would agree with this. This much talent, it shouldn't just be about winning. It should literally be it should just be much more comfortable the way we win. And, we just scraping by narrow wins, tough losses.
It should be fun to watch. I don't think anybody's enjoyed watching this team this year.
No. I'm trying to think of, like, probably the one time where I was, like, standing out of my seat was like, this is awesome, great, was like second half against Dortmund.
Yeah.
If there was more, then, obviously it wasn't that memorable if I don't remember it. All right, Super Chat Mania. Man, this Super Chat is really like a learning curve for us. We used to not be on YouTube, just do an audio podcast. Now we got to we got to deal with these Super Chats, and we're very grateful for them, but we're just kind of learning how to navigate that and do the analysis at the same time. So Carlos Peterson says, bring in Alonso. Tired of all these terrible subs. We're going to lose a league we should run away with because we have no tax plan. There's another Alonso question, so let me take it now. Nishlish Patel says, fast forward to February 2026. Alonso is coach. We are losing all competitions. 1, is this probable? 2, are the Sac Carlo fans allowed to miss him?
I like that second one. It's interesting. And obviously the first one is begging for a Xabi Alonso as well. And he's obviously the name that's been circulating around for a long time. I think here's where my head's at on that second one in particular is even if we were only in one competition by February, but we were showing positive momentum and like encouraging signs, and like maybe he brought in like a couple new youth players that are playing really well. Arda was getting a lot of minutes. The team was playing really well. Like things were cohesive and going in the right direction, then I think there would be a lot more of a longer leash. I think what's been so frustrating this year is that we haven't shown, there's not really been much encouragement, and it never felt like the team's clicking, and it's one step forward, 2 steps back. And I think that's where, even though we are competing on all fronts still, I think that's where everyone's just feeling like, we need something different. I think that's where it's coming from.
I'm at a stage where I think the team needs a new voice and a new leader. I think Ancelotti has taken this team as far as he can. I think this needs a new direction, a new voice.
And Xabi Alonso, no manager is perfect. So Xabi Alonso is not going to be perfect. And there's going to be things that probably infuriate people that he does. And maybe he leaves out your favorite player for whatever reason, and like things like that happen. But to your point, Kiyan, like I think just a freshness in the new manager bounce and like just new ideas. I think we do. It is starting to feel like that. Like we've been watching this now for how many months, and it's been kind of unrelenting.
Muhannad Al-Maruf says, why don't we give a chance to players like Endrick or Arda while we give 40-year-old Modric? And by the way, he was the reason that Espanyol scored.
I do think this was the type of game where you bring those two in. You needed something different. I would have brought them in. And I probably would have brought in Modric too. Probably would have brought in all three.
Arda would have made sense in a game like this to me, to find, just kind of, he has the vision and he has execution to find a pass and play a pass that no one else can see. This game was so close that his profile made sense to me. Endrick, the case for Endrick is that he's just such a chaos ball. Like, he comes in and just makes 100 mistakes and scores 2 goals.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with at the age of 17 or whatever he is. 18, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Modric made a mistake on the ball that led to the Espanyol goal. This is the one that got punished. How many careless giveaways that so many players have in this team that just didn't get punished? This is the one that got punished. So, Jeff Soa says, oh, hold on. We're going to come back to you, Jeff Soa. Adar Zalukovic, no, that's not. Oh, did we read this one? Okay, I want to reread it because we didn't actually address it. Adar Zalukovic says, Real Madrid officially calling out the ref and VAR. They released a statement after the game, which says, quote, Real Madrid lost to Espanyol at the RCDE Stadium in a match marked by the performance of referee Munoz Ruiz and Iglesias Villanueva on VAR. Neither of them gave a red card for a challenge from behind by Carlos Romero on Mbappe's left knee. It was the 62nd minute, and in the 85th, a goal by the aforementioned Carlos Romero gave the 3 points to the home team. In the first half, Munoz Ruiz also disallowed a goal by Vinny Jr. due to a previous foul by Mbappe on Paul Lozano, who had the Real Madrid striker by the neck when he entered the area. End quote. Are they wrong? Nope.
No.
It's a factually correct statement.
Yeah.
I have no issue with it. Jeff Silva says, all I can say is we fans ain't afraid of anyone. We're afraid of Carlo's game plan. Today, case in point. Thanks for the therapy. Feel better soon, Kiyan. Thanks, Jeff. I think this is a fair concern. I think when I look at how poorly Manchester City have been playing this season, and I think when we look at our talent level and our ceiling, that gives me comfort. But then I look at Ancelotti's lineups in how we're playing, that's my biggest concern is how we approach it, not our talent level.
Yeah, and I think that's why everything keeps circling back to Ancelotti, is because of the talent level of this team. And yes, the profiles don't necessarily click super well, but the talent level is just, it's so insanely high that they should be playing better and they should be doing better. And I've been seeing this same type of commentary on my Twitter feed, like people just saying like, I'm not as City's not as daunting as previous years, but you're just so worried about what Carlo's going to do.
Totally. And look, you and I talked about this a few weeks ago, I think. What would have happened if you just gave people like Fortea some reps by now? Asencio is ready to play against Manchester City. Would Fortea or Lorenzo have been ready by now if you started the process back in August, September? Or look, maybe that's optimistic. Like whenever Carvajal got injured at that point. Totally fair. A couple super chats. We've already addressed these points, so we're just going to read it and move on. Mr. Sushi22 says handball, first half 2, and foul on Mbappe in the box. Jeff Sova says VAR should be UEFA or a third party. And we're going to move on to a more tactical statement. One Shot Goner says, when the midfielders get the ball, the forwards come short instead of allowing the midfielder to bring the ball. So frustrating.
That's what I like about Endrick when he does come in, is he always stretches the opposition back line because he's constantly making runs off the shoulder of the center backs and just looking to get in behind. Surprisingly, Mbappe doesn't do that as much as you would think, given how fast he is. Rodrygo obviously comes to the ball more, and Vinny's the one that does try and stretch. But I do agree with this comment. Like, yes, Espanyol kind of forced that with the way their defensive shape was, but there were moments where we could have tried to stretch that back line.
Willard says Lucas is a bigger liability than Tchouameni. We had better control of the ball when Carvajal was in the team / needs to be addressed even when we win. Do we have anything to add on this one?
I don't know. Not more than what we've already said. And I think you made the point that, hey, this is the type of game that's good for Lucas. And like Brest, he was great. Like, these are the games where he can play, but bigger games is where we have more concern. And it's just the overall rotations that just seem off.
I mean, it's times like this, Matt, like you appreciate how great Carvajal was, right? What just night and day difference, how solid he was defensively, how competent he was going forward. It's just night and day to what we have right now.
And I think the other thing with Lucas that I think gets forgotten is, like, I think he's starting to look his age. Like, he's 33. And there's moments where, I don't know if you saw that one moment in transition when him and Ceballos both got beaten and started trying to sprint back, and it just looks so slow. And like Vazquez, I mean, when he first joined 24, like, he was known for his speed and his quickness. Like, he's just not that guy anymore.
You know, ever since you also made that comment a few weeks ago that Tchouameni is slow, I've started to notice it because it's on my radar now. Some of his like defensive sequences are just kind of awkward. Like, he'll press, or no, he'll step up and like take the gamble and see if he can intercept a pass. And there was one in the second half where he gets there, and I don't know if he should have even made that gamble, because even though he gets it, he just gives the ball to an Espanyol player and they break, and he should have just stayed pat. And I think some of his decisions in those reads are problematic, and he just does look slow. Like, even when he gets there, he looks kind of labored. It's
his legs look heavy. Like, it all just kind of slow motion for him.
Do you also like I didn't like Jude's performance today. Do you think he looks tired? Is this the annual Jude is tired in the second half of the season? Are we there yet?
I don't know that I thought he looked tired, but I can't really think of anything he did. Like, he just wasn't impactful to me.
He had like 4 shots. I mean, I'd have to look at it again, but his shooting was pretty way off. I mean, one of them was
thinking of ones with like his left foot outside the box, right? It was,
I mean, he had a couple good defensive challenges. He's always good for that. There was a couple times where he single-handedly pressed, and that was an issue for us because no one else pressed, and then Espanyol got through. So he had 5 shots tonight, 2 of them on target, 2 key passes. Yeah. Mr. Sushi is back to say, does Alonso's weird double fullback system not worry you? 2026, he's coach, and we get stuck with Fran Garcia, Kylian Mbappe, Lucas Vazquez, front 3. Last chat. Hala Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, with Alonso, you just have to see what the recruitment is in the summer he comes in. Obviously, if Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of those names, you do mitigate some of his defensive liabilities with that type of system. But hey, who knows? Like, Alonso may not play a back 3. Like, Real Madrid historically has rarely ever played a back 3. When was the last time when we had Ivan Campo, Carranca, and Hierro back there? I think it was, or Sanchez.
We had like the Champions League final in 2000. We had Campo, Carranca.
It was Hierro, right?
Hierro, and then Helguero in front of them.
Yeah. Like that was the last time. That was probably over 25 years ago. So,
Well, even that was, I mean, that was a really, I mean, that there was a lot of weird systems in that time. I mean, I often think about there was so many games where Makelele was literally the only central midfielder. Like he was DM and CM because it was a diamond. It was Makelele, Zidane on the left, Figo on the right. Or sorry, he would play DM and Solari on the left, Figo on the right, and Zidane up top. And then we had Raul and Morientes, and it was like he had nope. It was literally just him. This is part of the reason why I rate Makelele so highly. He has so much to do. It was crazy what we asked him to do in that tactical.
There's a reason why they named a position after him.
Yeah,
but I mean, and the other thing too is like I could see back three system actually prolonging the career of guys like Alaba and even Carvajal. I could see him playing like right center back. And Anthony Tharp made a good point in the comments, and I said this earlier. Like,
what's up, Anthony?
Xabi Alonso's team shapeshift. So like in possession, they switch to a 4-2-3-1. Like they're constantly changing the way they play and the shape that they take on in the formation. So it's not like we're fixed in that back three, back five type of role.
I have a point to make on this Xabi Alonso, the fullback systems. I don't think it would be an issue for a couple of reasons. The main reason is because I don't think he would come in and implement a system that wouldn't make sense for the squad. Like, I think if he came in and assessed the situation and said, okay, this is our fullback situation, this is our center back situation, these are the wingers we have, he might just come to a different conclusion in that here we need something different. That's the first point I would make. The second point I would make is that I would assume that if he really was hellbent on playing this way, he would A, tell the board what he needs, or B, use the youth players to make the system work. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
One last super chat, although we always get more at the buzzer. Ancor Gioti Bordeloy says Modric losing the ball too much lately. Weird. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's as good on the ball as he used to be. You can see it. You can see in previous games where he's just not as press resistant. He gets dispossessed a little bit easier. He'll have moments of genius. And this is 39-year-old Luka Modric. Probably still maybe like the second best 39-year-old ever after Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, Matt, we've been on here for a while. I have a raging fever. You got kids and dogs. We got through every super chat. I am happy to close it here. So listeners, thank you so much. Look, we appreciate all your support. Therapy makes it better with you guys. Thank you so much for logging on. We got big plans for the show. Very excited what's coming at you guys for the next few weeks. We got a special guest on Tuesday, and so I'll just spoil it for you, okay? On Tuesday, we have Steven Mendes, author of The Real Madrid Way, The Real Madrid Revolution, coming on to do a podcast only for members. So if you like this content, you want to hear Steven's thoughts and get a bunch of bonus content in the next few weeks, including the Manchester City second leg post-game, which will only be for members, go to patreon.com/Managing Madrid. And if you're on YouTube and you don't have Patreon in your country, you can simply hit join. Underneath this video, there's a join button where you can join as a member. Same content. You don't need to sign up for both. So please don't miss those shows. Also, we do weekly mailbags for members, and we got a lot of bonus content coming your way. So thank you for tuning in. Hope the rest of your weekend goes a little bit better than it did tonight. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Matt, and peace out.